Hello and welcome back to Terraformers. My name is Volcata, and today we'll be continuing our first look at a wonderful new turn-based resource management game set on Mars. Now, if you did not see the first episode where we went through levels 1 to 10, and if you're not familiar with the game, I highly suggest going back and checking out that video first. I'll put a card at the top that'll give you a link to it to make it a little easier. In the first episode, we went over a lot of the basics of the game, the concepts, the user interface, and kind of what to expect in the early game. Today, we are going to pick up where we left off, where we had just chosen a new leader. This will be level 11, probably go up to level 20, and we'll have an opportunity to see a little bit more of the terraforming aspect and how the technology grows as you go along, and how the expectations of Earth continue to escalate and how we tackle those. So let's jump back into where we left off and see what kind of mischief we can get into. All right, and looking here at our proposed projects, the Brine Electrolyzer is a very nice building. I don't see this very often. It's actually pretty useful. This building gives us +2 support for every building that costs water. Now mind you, costs water, not uses water. Because remember, this game doesn't require an upkeep for buildings. So if we were to take this and place it in our starting city, we can look at the buildings. The greenhouse farm costs water. No water there, no water there. Public baths required water. And the 2 other greenhouse farms required water. So we have 4 buildings in here that use water. It's a very water heavy city. So we would get a ton of benefit out of this building. Now if we look at the fusion plant here, +2 energy, which would be really good because we need energy. However, it's minus comfort of living. That means it's minus support for every population in the city. That's pretty harsh. To be honest, I'm not real excited about that. It's also -2 support for every neighboring population. Again, that's pretty easy to avoid. I wouldn't be too concerned about it, but the global -1 comfort throughout the city, for me, is kind of a no-go. I like this building, so we're not going to use his ability, and we're kind of low on power. So I think I'm going to hold off on using energy for exploration, and I'm just going to wring 5 energy out of him. Stockpile a little bit of that, because we're definitely going to need it. So I want to place this right now because bonus support early on is really useful. Very nice. And let's go ahead and get our science started. You know, it's funny. So remember, I built this greenhouse farm here saying that there's always the possibility of us putting like another soil factory here. And then I just went and dropped this in there. But we can always undo one action. Again, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to expand on our food production here, but there's no reason not to put this somewhere else. So let's plop it up here. And finally get some science coming in. We'll plop that down over here. Excellent. And that's a big growth turn. We got a lot of more support coming in, and we got our laboratory going. Now we have some science coming in. Finally, we should revisit, do we want to continue to trade for nitrates? Right now, we don't need nitrates for anything. I think we are just going to shut off our trade entirely because we are producing titanium. So eventually we'll be able to place this building through our production, and we need lots of food. So that's going to be it for this turn. So throughout the game, we also see events regularly come up that where we get help from Earth. Sometimes it'll be resources, sometimes it will be buildings, projects, and the like. In this case, it's going to be resources, And if we're not sure what we want out of this, we can minimize it. We can always come back to things. We can minimize that. And so down here, we would have the ability to look at the event again. And again, we can revisit our projects. And we're going to wait on the event because I want to see what we're going to get for this turn. More robots would be nice because that would contribute towards this. And as you can see, the robots we already had aren't contributing to this. This cares about the stuff that we build after we gain the ability. So more robots is good. We know we want to expand out, be able to do more mines. This building is very nice, university, but we're kind of running down on space right now. So I think that we're going to go ahead and get a robot hub. It would be very nice to have another landing pad, but we just shut off our trade. And there are better versions of the landing pad later on. And we have a free explorer. We want to always make sure we use a free explorer. Let's go out pretty far. Actually, we want to get this one. That way we can settle in the crater later on when we decide to. There we go. So that is the last connected point to the crater, which can now be founded once we have the food and water. And looking at what we're building, we definitely need more titanium. And we could work our way towards a titanium mine that we can reach fairly easily. But this gives us an opportunity to point out another aspect of this game, which is that cities cannot share locations. Now these are equal distance, so one or the other, it doesn't matter too much. But it is something to keep in mind when you start expanding, that if you think that you're going to build another location, you might not want to burgeon too much into its immediate area. In this case, we could go up and away from it if there are things that we want up here. Either way, we really need more titanium. So I think we're going to augment our titanium just a little bit here. Actually, I'll augment it a fair amount. And we need 11 total to build both of these, but there isn't that much of a rush. So I'm going to go ahead and collect a little bit more energy. And we still have our event to do. Ooh, lots of power. Nice. Yeah, we're producing these, so we're just going to grab power. Our power is recovering quite nicely. This leader came along at a good time. We really need a power plant. Okay, now here's where we're going to kind of get into the terraforming aspect of the game. Every now and then we will get pop-ups where engineering has progressed and life forms that they believe will be viable for Mars are presented to us. And we get to choose one of them. At the beginning, we're going to get bacteria. This bacteria requires a 0 temperature, which we'll look at in a moment, and provides 1 atmosphere and 1 oxygen per turn. It also gives us 1 prestige, and it takes a base time of 11 turns for us to reuse the building that produced it. Over here we have Dinococcus, which would give us +2 atmosphere instead. The minimum requirements is -2 temperature, so I don't think that there's going to be a region that we wouldn't be able to place that in. Now I like to spread it out, atmosphere and oxygen together. That way we're working on more than one stat at a time. Minimum temperature of 0, however, might be a little difficult, so we're not going to take that. And we're going to look at the map real quick and go over again something that we mentioned early on, which is that each area, each region, has the 3 stats: temperature, oxygen level, and rain. So this area has a temperature of -1. We would not be able to place the bacteria in this location until we manage to heat the planet by 1. So we need to look around to see, do we actually have a location that has a 0 temperature? This one's -3. That's pretty bad. -1. Yeah, I don't see any 0 temperature areas within our immediate reach. So we wouldn't even be able to place that bacteria. Additionally, we need to be able to build the bacteria spreader, which, as you can see, takes 17 science and it takes an external location. Fortunately, we do have a little bit of science coming in. So I think we are going to go with the one that takes -2 temperature, because it's better to get it going earlier than to wait around and hope that we can place this later. All right, and what are our options? So we have a building in the city that would allow us to increase atmosphere, which is this stat right here. And as you can see, this one requires 60, where all the other ones require 30. These will go up every time we get a level. So if we fill that up to 30, we'll get 1 level in temperature, but the next requirement would be 60. So as you can see, the atmosphere is a little bit more challenging right from the beginning. And if we look at the benefits for raising this, you can see it says by increasing the atmosphere level, each radiation production provides 1 comfort of living. And that's great, because that's +1 support for every population on the map. And you'll see under temperature, by increasing temperature, you increase comfort of living. Oxygen, by increasing the oxygen level, you increase comfort of living. By increasing sea level, you increase the comfort of living. So it's the same for all of them. So all of them are very good for increasing our support. So if we go back and look at what we can acquire, we already know that we want to spend food towards expanding to another city. And our food production is pretty decent at the moment. So I think we're going to grab this. Again, it's -1 support for every population that's near, but as you've seen by our city, it's going to be real easy to avoid having it next to any of them. So let's look at our city. And I think we want to get our robots down so that we can expand. And now that we have this, that's something we want to kind of focus towards. You'll probably get our science going a little bit quicker. And I think we will go ahead and start our gas factory. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take up this spot because realistically we're not going to expand the food production here. And that's going to give us +2 per turn, showing us that it's going to take 29 turns in order for this to increase. And that cost us a fair amount of energy, so I think we're going to take some more energy from him and just pass our turn. Now the comfort level building, which is fairly cheap to build, and it would give +1 comfort of living for every 4 food we produce in a given city. It's really nice. We're not going to have room for the university. We just know. We need to get our city established so that we can start getting these buildings built in those cities, because we are running out of space. And we still don't have a reliable tritium intake, although we could get 2 per turn from our trade routes. But I think I want to grab this because, again, comfort of living buildings are actually fairly rare. And we are producing 5 food in this city, so it will be easy to benefit from that. And as we are starting to accrue things that need science, I think we're going to back off 1 here and increase it here. You know what? Let's do both. Because we don't need this building immediately anyway, and we need a lot more science. And we can get science from exploration, which I think would be a good idea at this point. As much as I want to keep grabbing this guy's power, we need to see more of the map. Got a bunch of support, some water, some science. Hey, we found some food. Excellent. That gives us enough to actually expand to that other city. And we unlocked another location for a city. Oh, this one has a special location on it. So this one has silicates built into it. We would still have to build a mine on it, so we'd have to pay for it, but that's actually quite nice. And given our requirements for this round, we need silicate intake. So this is going to be another good candidate for a city to build. Now, we're not going to found anything right now. We could found this one, and it gives us access to more water, which is pretty nice. But I kind of want to found this one for the silicates deposit. However, we can't do that right now because we still need to explore all the regions around it. So I think we're just going to be done for this turn. Alright, so we get some pretty good options on this round. Now this building functions very similar to the satellite, except that it takes an external location. We actually have to build it in a place. And the reset on it is based on how far away you explore. So it's kind of a less powerful satellite, still very useful. We have a waste incinerator, which provides 1 power if you produce at least 3 food in the city. The good thing about this building is that it's cheap to build. 3 power and 3 titanium is actually really cheap. And of course, in our city, we're easily producing 3 food. And finally, we have the CO2 factory, which we already know that atmosphere takes more than everything else, starting at requiring 60. And we don't currently have a way of raising our heat. So I think that this is a pretty good option for us right now. So there isn't a whole lot we can do this turn. We are finally up to the point to where we have enough science to build this. But honestly, the bacteria spreader is more important. I think what we're going to do is we're going to explore, because we want to unlock all these areas around this settlement location. We know we want science. Let's grab that. And we have our free exploration. And I don't really care what we get, so let's grab this one. Because we need all 3 locations. Now, of course, we still can't found this because we have 1 more location to free up. And we are storing our resources for everything else. Now, we're pretty close to being able to build this CO2 factory, and we're also very close to being able to do the spreader. We only need 2 more science. We're already producing 1 automatically, so I think we're going to reduce 1 to there and put it to there. That way we will have the 9 titanium we need next turn, as well as the 17 science. And this is something that you're going to frequently want to keep an eye on, being able to move things around to meet what your current goals are. Hey, finally, a windmill! Oh, I have been looking for this for a long time. Finally, a good external power source. Now, it's only 1 power per, but it doesn't take up any room in your city, which is really useful. Here we have a food production building that comes with support. This is an excellent building. I love building these. And then we have the miner's cottage. This comes with 1 population and plus 1 support for every mine owned by the city. That's pretty neat. In fact, this is the first time I've seen this building. And when you start out the game, as I mentioned at the beginning, not all of these projects are available to you. As you complete scenarios and you level up your profile, things like this become unlocked. So each subsequent game has more and more options in addition to having new goals. And again, this is one I haven't run into before. I would like to have all 3 of these buildings. And I desperately want to have a power income. But this miner's cottage is so unique. Let's see here. Yeah, this city owns 3 mines already. And we have room for 1 more population. I don't think I can pass up this building. It's just, it's too good for this city. We won't be placing it yet, but we'll have it for the future. All right, so we need to get our bacteria spreader down. I think we're going to go to this nice flat open spot. And here we can actually see how this works. So with the bacteria spreader, you get a new icon down here for life forms. Now this covers all life forms, not just bacteria. So if we click on this, you'll see we have a line for bacteria, we have one for plants, and we have one for animals. Now the bacteria spreader, as its name implies, can only spread bacteria. But every type of bacteria that we have unlocked will show up along this line. And we can have multiple bacteria spreaders so that we're not so limited by the cooldown on one given building. Also, we can only have one type of bacteria in a region. So if we try to place another one, that life form will overtake the pre-existing one, though we can have a bacteria, a plant, and an animal all in the same area. Now, the requirements for this is -2 temperature. Most of our areas count for that, and it gives us a prestige for having a Deinococcus anywhere on the planet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and say we want to spread bacteria. It centered us on the bacteria farm because they could have spreaders other places. And the further away from that region, the longer the cooldown. So you can see at the top it says cost 8 time. Now again, whenever you see that, they happen immediately. That's the cooldown period, not the creation period. So we will get the benefits immediately. And if we move over here, it's 10, 10. In fact, we probably can't even build it in here because we don't have any exploration in here. See if I click on it, it doesn't do anything. So we're just going to do it right here. Now, unless the life form says it cares about cities being present, it doesn't really matter where they're at. Placing this is now contributing to our global project. So this doesn't actually impact the individual statistics for that region. It's a global impact. So for example, if this was producing heat, once this filled all the way up, then the heat level, not only of the region that the bacteria is in would go up, but all of the regions would. So don't really concern about where the life forms are at, unless the life form specifically says it gets a benefit from there being like cities in that region. For example, some of the animals like rabbits, I think give +3 support for there being cities. Because people like rabbits. But this will be on cooldown, and you can always check what the cooldown is left. So 8 turns left for this spreader. And that's going to help us get some atmosphere in 13 turns. But I want to go a little bit further with that. I want to get this placed. However, the only location I can place this would be next to population. Fortunately, as I mentioned, we can move buildings. Let's move the greenhouse. Now, moving the greenhouse is going to shut it down for a couple of turns. So our 5 goes down to 4. It'll come back in a couple of turns. Not too worried about it. And I'm going to plop that down right there. So now we have some heat coming in, and we're down to 11 turns on the atmosphere. I forgot we also have our damaged building. So we could spend 9 food and counteract that -10 support per turn. But you know what? We're in the positive, and we still have plenty of things that we need food for, so I'm just going to let it burn. They can slow fix it. And finally, I want to get this colonized, so we're going to explore the last location attached to it. We're going to found the city, which we could choose a color for it if we wanted to. And that's just to make it easier to see what cities own what when they're near each other. And again, we're going to look at the layout of this city, which is kind of a mess because of all the rocks. And look at where our nexus points are, where we might do, where we might do an adjacency building. Now this I wouldn't consider to be a nexus point because we're going to have a mine here. And this has a couple of nexus point options here and here. And if you want to get really crazy, we could do like all of this in food, and there could be a food bonus building here and a food bonus building here, and these would get benefits. So we can keep all that in mind. I'm going to just plop down here, use this as a nexus for population. Now, unfortunately, I won't be able to build this mine, both because we don't have the resources for it, and because we can't get to it because the rocks are in the way. So we will end up having to remove these rocks. And we are starving for power. So it's going to be a little bit before we can actually do anything in this city. But it's established now. It's going to give us our +1 support and gives an idea of what we want to aim for. Now we have nothing external that we want to build right now. So this is still not being expanded. It would be nice to get this silicate mine up and running, but we now know we're going to get silicates inside here. So the priority is a little bit less at the moment. So let's move on to our next turn. All right, so another resource intake. We know we're starving for power, so I'm just going to take that. We don't really need another support building for our people. Having another landing pad wouldn't be bad, but this is a good science building out on the exterior. I think that would be useful to us. However, I think what we're going to do is we're going to use his power to look for more options. We're really looking for power, to be honest. Now, I don't want to focus too heavily on our terraforming, especially since our gold doesn't really care about it. And it's fairly early in the game. We're already doing pretty decent. This is really nice. This is going to give support for neighboring population while providing population through robots. So this would be good to have in our new city. I think that's what we're going to grab. And before the turn ends, I think I want to up our titanium production. We're getting real close to needing to trade for power. See, that's a power adjacency building. That doesn't do us any good. This will do us good in the future, not right now. Boy, I really wanted to use his ability to get power this turn, but I think that we need to look for other stuff. Ah, Division of Labor, very nice building, and more science. I'm not particularly enamored with any of these buildings, to be honest, but we are going to need population in the new city. So we'll go ahead and grab this one. And we have a free explore. And we're going to go far away. We need more titanium, we need more food, we need more science. So titanium up here seems like a good idea. Oh, finally a location with lithium or tritium. I've never seen tritium be this rare. So that seems like a good find for us. Now, looking around New Stockholm, here we can build guided tours for more support. Black Dunes, which gives us a one-time intake of silicate. But we have no mines around it. So this is going to be a good city for placing exterior buildings like the landing pads and power production buildings if we can get our hands on them. Going on the inside, I'm going to go ahead and spend 3 power to remove that. And plop this down. Might as well start getting that support production earlier rather than later, because we know we're going to build that anyway. We're not going to place our food quality supervision because I want to use the science for the eco homes first. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to back these down. We know we need a lot of food. And I think we're going to just supplement our power a little bit. All right, so we have our first space project. Space projects can infer all kinds of permanent bonuses as well as one-shot bonuses. Like in this case, we would get an immediate 20 atmosphere and 20 heat. Now, since we don't have any intake for tritium, we're not going to do this. But since we can undo any action, I am going to take this opportunity to show you what it looks like when you have space projects. So if we were to take this, we get a new section over here. And this allows us to do the space project. And what it would require is for us to send goods from home using our trade rockets. Now again, we don't have the income for this, so we're not going to take it. But you can see how it would take a long time to build this. We only have 2 rockets. So it would take a minimum of 10 turns if we had the tritium. Take even longer for us because we need to trade for the tritium. And you can't trade Earth straight to the space project. So we would have to spend a rocket trading for a tritium to bring it home, and then another rocket to take that tritium from Mars up to the project. But let's undo the project. 3 robots, that's nice. And we know we benefit from robots because every 7 that we build gets us an additional science production. And finally, we have the development center. Now, the development center allows us to take 1 additional card per turn, and we can store 2 more in our hand. That's not bad. You can kind of consider it as 1 additional science per turn, because you can always sell that extra card. So if we look at it in that aspect, it's actually pretty decent. I think we want robots, because robots is going to get us closer to this, and it's going to let us to expand out more. But I don't think we're going to do any exploring because we need power, and Gustav is getting ready to go away. We got 1 more turn with him, and I want to get a little bit more power from him before he goes. Finally, the windmills come back. Oh, they're up against igloos. Igloos build in radiation protection, which is nice, but again, we don't see a lot of radiation. Another food adjacency building, which is nice, but we don't need it right now. This is what we need very badly. So we're going to take that, and as much as I want to build it this turn, it takes 7 titanium, which we could acquire by exploring somewhere that has titanium, but that would take more energy than we're going to gain from it if we're just a little bit patient and spend 1 turn trading for it. So I want a little bit more power out of our leader before he goes. And I think we want to place our home down here. Now, there's something you might notice. We are going to be out of space when we place our last home. And what I expect to do in the future is actually destroy a building. Now, I would like to destroy the greenhouse, but the greenhouse is benefiting from the Brine Electrolyzer. So we might end up building a new lab somewhere else to get our science, because science isn't one of our goals. And we do really need science. But after a while, we're going to be producing a fair amount of science as long as we can start getting the right buildings for it. And we can make our other city kind of a science hub. So for now, let's plop this down. You can see our background artwork updated. We have a full city now. And we got some more support coming in for it. And one of the benefits to doing that again is we're going to be able to expand out to another area. We'll probably end up coming out here to get some nitrate income because we don't have any right now. And we always want that option to come out here and get this big silicate mine. In fact, I tell you what, I think we're going to do this right now. It's better to get the income sooner than later. If anything, that's something that we can trade off to our trade routes. So let's say goodbye to our fearless leader. We got a lot of benefit out of him. All right, our 2 new options. Now again, we always have explore, and you'll also notice that as it progresses, we start getting science from exploration as well. See, if you look at either one of them, they're both the same. The skill just gets better. Now her expertise is recycling. So she gives us a free sewage treatment plant, which gives us +1 water for every 4 population, which is really nice. In the city it's in. And the ability to convert silicates over to titanium. Also, anytime we remove a rock, we find titanium in it. Now she specializes in animals, which is something that we're not going to be doing anytime soon. That's the top of the life form tree. But she does have really nice abilities. She can propose 2 new life forms for us to pick from, not necessarily animals. And she can reduce the heat requirement of a life form. Again, not necessarily animals. Now she can only do these so many times, even though she's going to be around for 10 turns. She can only propose 5 times and only reduce once. Her specialization reduces the cost of animal spreader buildings. I really like these abilities, but honestly, it's too early for this. So I think we're going to go with her because this is a nice secondary income of titanium. And these sewage treatment plants are great because it's a way of getting water without having to place a mine on an external tile. So we definitely want to get 1 or 2 of these in play. We're going to have to find a place to put one in our original city because we're kind of out of space. But at the very least, we might put one in a secondary city. Even if we don't have 4 people in it by the end of her time, the building will start working once we do have them. All right, and that's going to be it for this session. That's another 10 levels under our belt and another retired leader. We got a lot done in this session. We got to explore the terraformer aspect a little bit more. We actually got to spread a little bit of life in the form of a bacteria. And we got another city established finally. And that's a big deal because it's going to give us more space to make more buildings. You know, we ran out of space on our home city, and that's going to give us more local areas around it that will allow us to place more external buildings. We've built up some more of our resource intake, and we got more of the map explored. So all in all, it was a very good session. So thank you very much for coming out. I hope you enjoyed this. And again, if you are new to the game and considering purchasing it, I hope that this was informative and enlightening. And I'm thoroughly enjoying this game. I think it's a wonderful game. And by the time you're watching this, it should be in early access and available on Steam. So thank you very much for coming out. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to stop by the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them. And I hope to see you in the continuation of this series as we progress into the next 10 years and see how far we can get.